Hello, people. Let's spend our 30 minutes trying to harness this mind of ours in our long-term job of turning it into the mind of a Buddha. That's the long-term job. But every day we do a little bit. So this morning, like last week, we're going to do, well, I forgot last week to do the 9-round breathing. We did it at the end, didn't we? We'll do that first. So that's always a technique that the lamas use to steady the mind, kind of steady the mind. In fact, it's got a more subtle meaning about, in the mornings, like before dawn or something, I can't remember. There's something about the winds. I can't remember, but it's a method for steadying the wind energy. And because at the subtle level, our different wind energies are intimately connected to our different states of mind. So by working with the winds, you're working with the mind. You're helping the mind, When the winds are out of control, the mind is berserk, and they have this intimate relationship. They say the mind rides on the winds. So this 9-round breathing is a nice, and also mentally it's nice because you're imagining ridding yourself of your attachment, your aversion, and your ignorance. These three toxic emotions. But first we get the body in a position that's conducive. The body doesn't meditate. So we don't get, in our culture, we get very caught up in the body. If the body feels good, we get all excited. The body's just this physical stuff, but like it does relate to the mind. So we put it in a position that makes it conducive for the mind to do its job. So we just check the 7 or 8 points. That this is coming from all the great meditators over the centuries. They've found it to be the best. So ideally, of course, always, and keep this in mind, the full lotus position has got some great meaning, because the greatest meditators are really working seriously on their minds. They can stay in that position that keeps them stable for like months. So it's very practical. So if we can even practice doing that, and I always say this, but it's good to hear it. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said one time, I remember reading, that's really auspicious to start your session in that classical position of each instep on the other thigh, just for a moment. It kind of creates the cause to be able to do it in the future when we do the more advanced meditations. Of course, if we can't do it, that's okay. Put one leg up. If you can't do that, regular cross-legged. If you can't do that, then sitting in any way you can. For most of us, if we're in a chair, then the key thing is you hold up your own body. You don't slump. You don't slump into the back of the chair. You sit upright, and you obviously have to have your feet firmly planted on the ground. That's the first one. Please forgive me. There's something I've got to turn off that I forgot that is not good. Please forgive me. So then next one is your bottom. So obviously if you've got very flexible legs, your legs can be crossed, and your legs will be flat on the floor, and that's helpful. But if not, it's okay. So you do your best, and then you put a cushion, whatever cushion works for you, underneath your coccyx. So the ideal is to be sitting cross-legged, and then slightly tilted, a cushion slightly thrusting you upwards and slightly forward. So it makes you very stable. And again, this is relating to the way we sit. Don't sit in something very soft and comfortable. It's got to be comfortable, but not so soft that you just go to sleep. That's silly. Then the third one is your hands in the mudra or gesture. They call it the meditation mudra or gesture. And there's many of these, but the classical one we are taught first is your left hand underneath, your right hand on top, and the two thumbs touching, forming a triangle. I heard somewhere way back in the past, and I've never verified it, that there's there are subtle physical in it, 2 subtle channels related to bodhicitta at the tips of the thumbs. So their touching has some significance. Then the next one is your legs, your bottom, your hands, your back, in general upright, and your shoulders. They talk about your shoulders being square, but not tense. So I always like to think of it like this. You think of your whole skeleton completely upright, like as if it were hanging on a hanger. but then all your flesh, all the soft bits hanging really lightly, completely relaxed on the skeleton. So they don't mention it, but always we hold tension in our abdomen. So sit upright, but then flop the muscles, but keep your body upright. It's a good combination. And then your head is the main one, not the main one, but the head is several points. Slightly tilted forward, chin tucked in, not thrust back. That's not helpful. The mind gets agitated. The head slightly tilted forward, chin tucked in, lips apart slightly, and then the tip of the tongue resting behind the top teeth. The yogis have found that this prevents you from having to dribble or, swallow the spit all the time if you're meditating for a long time. And then finally, your eyes. For the serious meditators who meditate throughout the day, it's good to have them slightly open because that allows the light to come in to keep your mind sharp. Well, we're here for 30 minutes. So, we're not very concentrated. We get distracted. So have them lightly closed, but beneath your eyelids, your eyes should be looking down as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So settle into this position and then forget about the body. So think just for this 25 minutes, I'm going to make the most of it. Work on my mind, slowly learning day by day how to know the mind, train the mind, discipline the mind, so we can mold it into the shape we want. This is the job. So now there's 9 rounds. We do a couple of these. Basically, the idea is, the first 3 breaths you imagine leaving through your left nostril, and it's all your attachment energy. So attachments like dissatisfaction, always wanting something more, possessiveness, manipulating, controlling, always making, trying to control the whole world. All that's attachment energy, but also just kind of this emotional hunger. So all that energy, you imagine it leaving through your left nostril like yucky smoke. The first 3 breaths. The next 3, you imagine all your anger, aversion, irritation, frustration, annoyance, depression, this whole spectrum of aversion, the response when attachment doesn't get what it wants. All of this leaving through your right nostril like yucky smoke. And then the third 3, ignorance. And one of the functions of ignorance is indifference, uncaring, kind of fundamentalist, I'm right, you're wrong kind of mind, very fixed mind, all that energy through both nostrils. That's the out breaths, left attachment, right aversion and anger and depression. The third, both ignorance. Then to add to it, which is, you visualize when you breathe in all the blissful white light of the universe, all the holy beings, all your own potential, all your own goodness breathing in to you. And then that drives out through the other nostril. So through the right, all the delicious, blissful energy through the right nostril, which drives out all the attachment through the left, and then reverse it, and then both. And just at your own pace with determination and kind of confidence. So knowing it physically can steady the mind and the body, and the mind thinking this is positive, So a couple of rounds of this. And if you forget where you're at, just start again. And take complete deep breaths, not forced. Okay, just now, just by the way, just check that you're muted, would you? Just, I think a couple of people aren't muted. Just now we can go to the next stage and we can do the first part of the Mahamudra meditation again. Mahamudra generally is a type of meditation. Mahamudra is a type of meditation to help us realize the emptiness, first of our mind, first of our own self, then of the mind itself and phenomena. The first part, which is the concentration component, it's the two modes of meditation. Concentration is the first one, insight is the second part. We'll keep doing the first part. We'll do the first part, and that is where we're learning to concentrate. So in this technique, concentration, you're using various parts of your mind. These, I like to call these parts our mechanics. So the key part, the first bit that does the job of focusing, is literally called attention. So it's like you pay attention. So they always need an object to pay attention to. So in this case, the object of concentration, the typical one we might do that Lord Buddha taught is the breath. But this is more subtle. This is the mind itself. And all that means in the beginning is whatever arises in your mind. I mean, thoughts are continuously coming. We don't pay attention normally. So here we're using those thoughts as the object of concentration. It's more subtle, obviously, because the breath is still something physical. So with determination, we'll do it for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll relax for a second. So for 3 or 4 minutes, with strong determination, simply pay attention, watch, whatever pops up in your mind. Don't do it in a very kind of focused but relaxed way. Now, the other thing is there are other parts of our mind all helping to do this job. The next part is called mindfulness, and it's a very particular function of when the attention wanders off. Mindfulness is the part of the mind that brings it back to the object. That's its job. When you've got that really well and your mind can stay on the object, the attention, then eventually this leads to concentration. They're different states of mind. So the part that has to work hard, attention does the looking, mindfulness is watching like a hawk, like the mother. The child is attention. Mindfulness is like the mother. Every time attention wanders off, mindfulness brings it back. Kind of imagine it's like that. So with determination, just simply pay attention to whatever arises in your mind. Allow it to come and allow it to go. No opinions, no engaging in the thoughts, just allowing the thoughts to be there. Pay attention to the mind. Every time the attention weakens and wanders off, that's what mindfulness's job is. Catches it immediately, brings it back to the breath, brings it back to the job of watching the thoughts. Keep your mind alert and sharp. It doesn't matter how busy your thoughts are. That's the point. Just observe. Let them go. Let them go. Just relax for a second. That was about 5 minutes, I think. And we're doing, let's relax for like a minute, then we'll do another 5 minutes. We did a whole retreat one time with Lama Yeshe, and he made us do 5-minute sessions. And there's something very helpful about that. Until we're really quite good concentrators, you know, most of the time we're meditating, we're spacing out, and we don't know the difference. This is a really important point, because some people can sit quite relaxed, and we think that's called concentration. It's not, it's spacing out. And that's becoming, the mind just becomes dull. So we really have to see the difference between relaxing and focusing. This activity of concentration, the mind needs to be relaxed, but super sharp. It's a, you know, difficult combination for us. So now just concentrate again, but this time we'll try and do the second part of the Mahamudra meditation, but I need to explain it briefly. So we'll just try to do our best. The second part, Lama Yeshe in his book, he says, when you've got some, when you really, the mind is steady, when you've really got some concentration, then what you do is you keep, this is the point here, you keep concentrating on the mind. That never changes. You continue to concentrate on the mind. But then when the mind is steadier, then what Panchen Lama says, the text that Lama's commenting on, a tiny part of your awareness, and as like they use, Panchen Lama uses the example of a little fish in a body of water, moving in the water without disturbing the water. So just have to imagine a tiny part of your mind. You continue to watch the breath. The main part, your attention is not watching the mind, not the breath. And then this tiny part of your mind goes out. A tiny part of your awareness is now watching like a hawk to see how you cling to the eye, to see how the eye appears to your mind. It's quite subtle. It's quite precise. So let's give it a go. So again, with determination, pay attention to your mind. Pay attention to the thoughts. Let's do that for a couple of minutes. Again, pay attention to the thoughts. Just let them come and let them go. So now, this tiny part of your awareness, like this fish, and Lama so sweetly, he calls it your mindfulness fish. You stay paying attention to the mind. But it's like watching out of the corner of your eye. You're walking on the road, you're driving, and you're focusing exactly on your lane. You're watching, you're paying absolute attention. But out of the corner of your eye, you can see things on the road, can't you? You can see the other cars, but you're not paying attention to them. It's a tiny part of your mind watching to see how the eye appears, how we grasp at the eye. That's the job. Do your best. Pay attention to the mind and this tiny, your mindfulness fish, watching to see how the eye, how you experience your eye, this me. See if you can catch the way the eye appears. But all your attention's on the mind. So relax now. We'll do it again. Now it's finished. But the thing is, I mean, you know, Lama says, you know, this meditation, as Lama says, it's non-conceptual completely. There's no analysis. There's no, so, but you'd imagine if you did this meditation, you've never heard of emptiness. Clearly, you'd have to know something, you know, you'd have to have some background. Because what we're trying to do is observe the way the ego grasping, the root delusion, clings to the self. So that's why to concentrate first to get the mind steady, then this awareness, this tiny part of your awareness can then watch. It's quite subtle, but this is the Mahamudra meditation, the way to see the way the ignorance grasps at the eye. Of course, if we've never heard of that, it's quite difficult. So even though it's a non-conceptual meditation in itself, it's clear that we need background, you know. So maybe next week I can read a couple of Lama's words about the way the eye appears to us. So we finish now. Thinking, hoping this 30 minutes we've done, this attempt to discipline the mind. Again, we bring it into our daily life. Every day we do a little bit and we bring it into our daily life. So the learning from this to bring into our daily life is that we can start to become conscious of the mind every second. Normally, we only notice what's in the mind when it's bursting as an emotion. But the mind's never stopping, we can see that. But normally we're involved in the external job, washing the dishes, dealing with the family, driving the car, and we're not noticing the mind. But this is what we can bring to bear into our daily life. You're doing your jobs, but you are aware of what is going on in your mind. So, of course, the added thing you can do in daily life, which is not the Mahamudra technique, is then label. That's another level. You label what you're seeing. You're doing the dishes and you're suddenly noticing your thoughts are angry. Wow, Robina, give it a break, girl. Relax. You have to see the mind. And then the real job, because in daily life, is to label what's there. This is not Mahamudra. Label it and then argue with it. This is being your own therapist every day. This is being a Buddhist. This is the heart job of a Buddhist. Molding our mind into whatever shape we like. And of course, that's the mind of a Buddha eventually. So we delight this little 30 minutes. And then throughout the day, noticing the mind, working with the mind, beginning to be controlled. Jangchub Semchub. Rinpoche, ma ke panam ke guchi, ke panyampa mepa yang, gongne gondu kabashog. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Matt. Thank you.